Back with another mega physical media collection video for you all. Today I'm showing off all my physical media titles that start with the letter B, as in Batman. That includes 4Ks, Blu-rays, slipcovers, steelbooks, boutique labels, you name it. If it starts with the letter B, it's going to be showing to you right now. So let's get right into this collection. I'm going to first start up with the superhero genre. So we got our Batman 4-film collection, of course. 1989 and Returns are my absolute favorites in here, but you gotta have them all in this nice little box set. Alright, next up, we gotta have Black Adam. Pretty generic superhero movie overall. Had some potential, but just didn't live up to the hype. Alright, next up, we do got The Batman. Yes, directed by Matt Reeves. You got Robert Pattinson. One of the best Batmobile chase sequences ever. So really cool. Alright, next up, we got to have Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn. Really cool looking steelbook cover, actually. The movie itself is just kind of so-so. Once again, had potential. Thought they could have done more with Black Mask, but it is what it is. Alright, next up, we got Blade. Awesome movie. Of course, you got great vampire action sequences in here, so I really like the slipcover on this one. Alright, next up, you gotta have the trilogy of Blade films. Blade 2, directed by Guillermo del Toro, is actually really cool with some practical effect work. Blade Trinity, not so much. You do get Ryan Reynolds in it, but that's about it. Alright, next up, we gotta have Black Panther. I did quite enjoy this movie overall. Killmonger was a really great villain, good production and costume design. So, yeah, overall, a solid Marvel movie. Alright, next up, we got the sequel to that. Of course, we got Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Very cool looking steelbook design. I mean, Namor was such an awesome villain in the movie. Overall, once again, great costume and production design here. And they did pay a great tribute to Chadwick Boseman in the movie. So, overall, another very solid Marvel movie. And then next up, we gotta have Black Widow. Yeah, this movie probably came out many years too late, but still kind of just a spy action thriller. It's pretty decent, more mid-tier, I would say. But you got Blockbuster in the movie, so that's really cool. Continuing with the superhero genre, but going animated style, we got Batman Assault on Arkham, which is a pretty decent Harley Quinn and Suicide Squad story. Alright, next up, we got a Batman triple feature. So you got Batman Beyond the movie, got Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, the uncut version. Definitely the best movie out of this bunch. And then we got Batman Mystery of the Batwoman. Alright, next up, we got Batman Death in the Family interactive movie. If you like the Batman Under the Red Hood storyline, it's basically the same idea here, but this time you get to interact with it, choose different cutscenes and a different destiny to see how else the story could play out. So cool interactivity idea, and I do like the slipcover here. So if you're a fan of Under the Red Hood, you might want to check that one out. Alright, next up, we got Batman The Dark Knight Returns Deluxe Edition. Really solid DC animated movie here based on an amazing graphic novel. Can highly recommend this one. Alright, next up, we got Batman The Doom That Came to Gotham. The characters look way different in this movie. It's like based on, kind of HP Lovecraft type of style. So really interesting story they went with here. Just not amazing in my opinion. All right, next up, we got Batman Gotham by Gaslight, basically taking Batman old school over to London. And yeah, kind of an interesting story. Once again, the characters do look way different, so it just depends if you're into that style, but decent overall. All right, next up, we got Batman Gotham Knight, which is really interesting because it's like a in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's decent, fills in some story gaps. Overall, not great, but I do like, the Lynn Tickler right here, so very cool. All right, next up, we got Batman and Harley Quinn. So if you're a Harley Quinn fan, I think you'll like this movie. There's definitely some scenes that stick out, if you know what I mean. You know, you know. But yeah, it's pretty decent. All right, next up we got Batman Hush. Uh Overall, I was disappointed with this one because they did something different than the graphic novel it's based on. They went in a different direction to kind of subvert expectations. I would have preferred if they stuck with the original story. That's just my taste, but overall a very cool cover and you get some great villains in there. All right, next up, oh, such an amazing movie I can recommend to everyone. You got to have the Lego Batman movie. This is one of the best Batman stories we've ever gotten. Totally serious on that. They totally get the Batman and Joker relationship. All the other characters are so cool in their Lego form, and there's definitely a lot of references and call outs and cameos, and it's just really, really cool if you're a Batman fan and a Lego fan. All right, next up, we got Batman The Long Halloween Deluxe Edition, so it has both parts of that movie together. Once again, based on a famous graphic novel. And so this one's pretty good. I will say it's one of the better DC animated movies out there. All right, next up, oh, this is a fun one. We got Batman Ninja. I do like this steelbook too. It's very cool. It's like basically a feudal Japan style. So you got like samurai, ninja kind of characters. Very fun, very different. It gets really wild. So I enjoy this one. I think it's one of the better ones as well. Next, we got Batman Soul of the Dragon, which basically is a 70s ninja style movie. Didn't love this one overall, though, unfortunately. All right, next up, we got Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, the cover art looks so amazing. In terms of the movie itself, pretty forgettable. All right, and then next up, we gotta have Batman vs. Two-Face, awesome lenticular cover here, of course. And if you love the Adam West 60s show, you're really going to like this one because you got a lot of the voice talent characters back for this one. And I think they did a wonderful job with it. All right, next up, we got Batman Under the Red Hood. I can highly recommend this one out to everybody. It's a top 3 DC animated film for sure. It's just a great story. Red Hood's a very interesting character. It becomes basically like a crime drama in a way. You got some twists and turns in there, so really, really like that movie. All right, next up, we gotta have Batman Year One Commemorative Edition. This one is based on a graphic novel. Really great story here. You get to see an early on Batman. So yeah, I thought this one is also one of the better ones out there. All right, next up, we got Batman Battle of the Super Sons. So you got Batman and Superman in there. And of course, there are kids in the movie. So it's a fun, interesting idea. I wouldn't say it's the best one out there, though. Kind of more mid tier. Now to get into the drama section of the bees. And of course, we got A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Yes, the Tom Hanks movie with the dramatization of the Mr. Rogers stories. I quite enjoyed this one myself. All right, next up we got Belfast, which I think a really underrated movie. It's black and white style, but you get to learn about the history of Ireland and also just has a great family story, some awesome messages and themes, so really powerful moments in there. All right, next up we got Belly, which is a guess gangster crime genre, very stylized, some very cool sequences, cool slipcover too. All right, next up, we got another crime drama here. We got Blood In, Blood Out, a longer kind of movie, but definitely some tough scenes to watch in here. But if you're into that style of genre, it's a must. All right, next up, we got The Blue Bayou, which I think is a really, really good movie about the struggles of immigration and growing up in the U.S. and all of that. So very powerful as well. And then next up, we got Bombshell. Once again, a tough watch of a movie with the situations that are going on. but it sheds light on something extremely important to be aware of. All right, next up. Ooh, this is a great one. We got Backdraft, and I do really like the steelbook here, but the fire practical effects in this movie are awesome. All right, next up, we got Bumblebee, my second favorite Transformers movie. I really liked it. It kind of gave me that nostalgia 80s vibe, so really enjoyed this movie overall. Some emotional beats as well. All right, next up, oh, you gotta have this collection. It's a must trilogy to have, and that's of course the Back to the Future trilogy. Yes, I got all the steelbooks, of course. Really love all these movies. The first two are some of my favorite movies of all time, and the third one is still a really good film. So you can't really go wrong with any. Need them all in the collection. All right. And then next up, we got Beverly Hills Cop. Yes, an Eddie Murphy cop action comedy. So this was a very entertaining watch as well. All right. Next up, we got to have a more modern action movie. And we got Bullet Train with Brad Pitt, an all star cast. Very entertaining, stylized movie. So very, very cool. All right. Next up, gotta have a historical action kind of war movie with Braveheart. Excellent movie in my opinion. Just some of the war sequences are just so well done on an epic kind of scale. So really enjoyed that one. And then next up, we got The Bridge on the River Kwai, which is basically a classic kind of war style movie. It is a very long movie. I do like the second half probably better. It does get a little slow in some parts, but there is a great payoff once they get to the bridge sequences. So, yeah, overall, enjoy it if you're a classic movie fan. All right, next up, we gotta have The Blues Brothers, which is an awesome musical comedy movie. Of course, you got John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. The music in here is just fantastic, and you got some awesome cop car chase sequences. It gets bonkers in some moments, so really enjoyed this one. All right, and then next up, we got A Bad Mom's Christmas, a sequel to Bad Moms. It's funny enough, good for the holiday time, so decent little watch. All right, and then next up, we gotta have one of people's favorite movies out there, Beetlejuice. Yes, Michael Keaton is great in this role. Just a very fun, spooky tale. So I really enjoyed this one. All right, next up, ooh, a great anime title I highly recommend, and that's going to be Belle. Yes, very emotional and powerful, especially by the end. But I mean, just the animation is fantastic. The music is great. It's just so cool and very trippy at the same time. Really enjoyed this one. All right, next up, we got to have a couple of TV shows in here. And so we got Bugs Bunny cartoons. What's up, Doc? Yeah, if you love the Looney Tunes, got to check this out. All right, next up, actually a show and a couple movies here is going to be Batman, the complete animated series. I really enjoyed the first two seasons of the show, just from my childhood. Very fun. And then you also got two movies in here. You got Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which is just excellent. And then you also have the Sub Zero Mr. Freeze one, which is really cool too. So, great, fantastic collection. Then another awesome show I just watched recently for the first time is Birds of Prey, which has a really nice, cool, shiny, slippy cover on it. But it's an awesome story in my opinion. It's just way fun and different. You got the kind of classic characters, at least some of them from the comics, but they put a little bit of a spin on it. Kind of reminds me of the Charmed vibe because you are focusing on three ladies in here. So yeah, there you go. All right, next up we got the Black Cauldron, which I think is a really good Disney title that doesn't get as much love, but I think it's an awesome darker tale. I think the villain's really cool looking. Of course, you got the little dog character right there. So it's just fun if you like fantasy, animation, Disney classic style movies. I think it's really underrated. Now to get into some boutique labels that start with the letter B, and going with the Criterion Collection first, you gotta have the Before trilogy, which is an awesome set of three movies here that are all great if you love the romance genre. These are a must. All right, next up, You gotta have a Blowout, a young John Travolta in this movie, but a really interesting mystery premise here. And then next up, we gotta have Bringing Up Baby, a classic comedy, very fun, very entertaining, still holds up to today. Next up from MVD, we got Bright Lights, Big City. You got Michael J. Fox and Phoebe Cates in this one. All right, next up, we got to get into Shout and Scream Factory. So we have The Burbs, a very fun family comedy with Tom Hanks, perfect during spooky season. All right, next up, we got The Box Trolls, an awesome Leica stop motion animation film. Great themes and messages in here. All right, next up, a title I almost forgot started with a B is, of course, Bubba Hotep. Now, reason why I forgot this movie is because it is so forgettable. Not much happens in this movie. I just don't find it that enjoyable. So, don't know why it's in the collection. All right, next up, we gotta have Black Christmas, which kind of kicked off the slasher genre in a way. A very classic movie from the 70s, I believe. I didn't love this one. A lot of people do. To me, it was just kind of okay. All right, next up, a horror title I do really like is My Bloody Valentine, and I really like this steelbook design too. Very, very cool. All right, next up, we got Blumhouse of Horrors 10 movie collection. A lot of great titles on there, some just okay ones, but definitely worth to have all of these. All right, next up, we got to get into the comedies now, and we got Babylon, which I thought was a really entertaining movie. It's one of my favorites from the year it came out. It's a very raunchy kind of comedy, so it's kind of like a Wolf of Wall Street type of movie, but you also get to learn a lot about the history of Hollywood, which is really cool. All right, next up, we got Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. And you got to have the lenticular cover with them riding the giant shrimp, of course. This movie does get bonkers, but I think it has a really fun, entertaining moment in it as well. And it just has some cool musical numbers and overall some good themes and messages. All right, next up we got Better Off Dead. A lot of people love this one as well. This one has John Cusack, and I think it's a pretty good 80s comedy myself, kind of a dark comedy in a way. All right, next up we gotta have a 3 film collection with all the Bill and Ted movies. I think the first 2 Bill and Ted movies are quite good. I think the third one is not so good. All right, next up, you gotta have Booksmart, which is a raunchy comedy as well, and I enjoyed this one overall. So definitely some funny moments in there. And then next up, ooh, such a great comedy. We got Bridesmaids. Oh, this one you're just gonna laugh hysterically on. Essential for the comedy collection. But there we go. Those are all my titles that start with the letter B. Let me know in the comments below which ones were your favorite that I showed off. Also, what are some other B titles you would recommend out to me that I should add into my collection? Let's have those fun movie conversations down below. And if you love collecting physical media just like me, make sure you subscribe right now. That way I can keep you entertained and up to date on all the latest physical media topics.
And I'm going to bed.
And if you enjoy these physical media topics, check out another one right now. And thank you so much, my mega membership supporters.